And now let's turn our attention to a disease that is ravaging the world, one that's going to get worse over time. There may be many candidates for this description, but the disease I'm talking about is diabetes. Its prevalence is growing rapidly. By 2045, the number of diabetes patients could be more than 780 million the world over. People in emerging economies are particularly vulnerable. In Asia and Africa, diabetes will affect more than 560 million people, which is a 50% rise compared to 2021. India in the immediate neighborhood is expected to see a 70% rise in cases. Why is this happening? And what can be done to stem the tide? Here's a report.
Diabetes is on the rise globally. Millions are diagnosed with it every year. It led to 6.7 million deaths in 2021, and hundreds of millions are at an increased risk of developing it, especially those living in emerging economies. Let's start with what diabetes is. It's when your body cannot produce enough of the hormone insulin. Insulin is needed to keep your blood sugar in check. When your body fails to make enough insulin, blood sugar levels rise. This leads to your blood vessels getting damaged. It increases the risk of heart disease. There are two variants of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is genetic. Some people cannot produce enough insulin from an early age. There's not much that can be done except taking regular medication. Then there's type 2 diabetes. It's considered a lifestyle disease. It's when your body cannot regulate blood sugar levels due to excess weight or a lack of physical activity. Type 2 makes up about 90% of all diabetes cases, and this is the variant that's on the rise. There are two main reasons for it. The first is economic growth. Parts of Asia and Africa have seen tremendous growth this century. This has led to people being able to afford more food. But Asians and Africans aren't eating more traditional, healthy, low-calorie and low-fat food. Often, people choose to eat food high on sugar. The emergence of global food chains offering junk food has exacerbated the problem. People consume more sugar than their bodies require, leading to weight gain and then diabetes. Thus, Asia and Africa are expected to bear the brunt of new diabetes cases. The number of diabetes patients could touch 560 million here by 2045. That's more than the total number of diabetes patients in the world in 2021. It's an increase of 50%. The increase will be similar in South America. For North America, it's about 24%. The figure for Europe is about 13%. We had mentioned there were two main reasons for the rise of diabetes. The second reason is the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant lockdowns. The restrictions placed on mobility led to many gaining weight, and researchers say physical activity levels haven't bounced back even after the restrictions were lifted. A study looks at steps tracked via smartphone apps. People are walking 10% less than pre-pandemic levels. The figure is 30% less in Asia. Average exercise levels are down in Europe and North America as well. If physical activity levels don't rise, diabetes will. So how can we address the challenge posed by diabetes? We all know the standard advice: eat healthy and exercise. But governments can step in too. After all, diabetes led to almost $1 trillion in healthcare expenditure in 2021. Money that could have gone to other economic activities. Not to mention, fit and healthy citizens are generally more productive for a nation. Some nations have implemented a sugar tax to combat diabetes. Sugary drinks in particular have been targeted. Making these beverages more expensive is one way to try and reduce their consumption. But it's still the tip of the iceberg when it comes to dealing with the menace of diabetes.